Hey everybody, super honored to have Dr. Joe Dispenza in studio today. We're talking all about your thoughts, how powerful they are, how they can make you ill, but how they can also heal you. We're talking so much. Oh my God, there's too much.
Talked a lot about change and transformation.
Change and transformation, and how much change is available to us. Like, we really can do all of this. We can heal mind, body, and soul. We have the power to do all of it. And it's not hard, friends. Trust me, because I did it and I have changed and I didn't think I could change. Anyhow, more coming soon. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Better Together. When you know better, you get better. That's our goal here every single day. I think we do it every single day.
I think we nail it.
Yeah,
we do.
Full 360 life improvement. We do it all here. And today we are so excited to bring you part 2 of our interview with Dr. Joe Dispenza. We go deeper and deeper into the heart, panic attacks, so much more, and really just understanding how we're healing ourselves as we change, which is so cool. And I am telling you, it is not hard. I know it's a little bit of a commitment at first, just like if you're going to try to, change your body at the gym or lose weight or whatever it is that you're doing new. If you're going to learn a new language, in the beginning, it's hard. You got to commit to that, couple of days of like this new learning curve. But just once you get in, I'm telling you, you are going to love it. You're going to love yourself for the first time, maybe, because that's what I'm feeling. I love myself. I love life. I just lost my mom. I know it was a year ago, but I am so moved by the last 6 months of my life doing this work and how great I'm doing despite where I feel like I could have been had I not come to this work with my mom. So,
and it's so interesting, Maria. I was prepping by listening to the first episode, and you kind of say that. It's really, you should go back and listen to it. You really say that you gave your all to her and that you're like, wow, okay, it's my time to heal. And I wish that I could give my all to me. And I was like, oh my God.
In the first episode?
In the first
we did together like years ago?
Yes.
Wow.
Isn't that wild? I was on my walk like, oh, damn, I got to tell her this.
Wow. Yeah. I've been waiting for my turn. Like most women, right? We have so many people we have to take care of.
Yep.
And I'm just grateful that my body and my mind and my brain and everybody's like hung on to this moment, because this is my changing my beliefs and changing my behaviors and changing my responses is changing my life, which is allowing for healing to take place. And I'm so glad after the show, he gave me that tidbit. He's like, no, it's not about the healing. It's about changing to create the healing. Yes. And I was like, oh my God, drop the mic.
Healing's the byproduct of it, of the change.
It really is.
Yeah.
And so I'm super excited for you guys to hear the second episode. As always, go to mariamenounos.com. The Life Hacks blog version of this will give you a lot of the takeaways, so you can be free to just listen to this and enjoy it. And then if you want to listen to it and keep your notebook and take your notes, you can do that. But I want you to feel safe that we've got you. We're ferociously taking notes. Every part of this is going to be clipped out and repurposed on our Instagram at Better Together with Maria for all of you to listen to in different moments. Because sometimes I go back to different Instagram accounts to listen to something again, because it's like my storage is there. So anyhow, don't forget, we'll put a link to the website in the summary. And also, we will also link in there Dr. Joe's websites and everything you need to find him and his work. So we will get you there. So without further ado, here's my second part of my conversation with Dr. Joe Dispenza. It's addictive because you see the results. I see the results, or I would not be able to fit this into my days. I'm fitting it into my days because I never want to feel the other way ever again. I want to keep feeling like this and better and better and better. And I know what's possible now, and I see it. And the women that I had on the show that everyone will hear this week, Evie, who was on stage in San Diego, and Kristen, who hasn't done a testimonial for you, but this is a woman who had breast cancer, spread all over, went to her brain. She had 150 brain tumors radiated. And she had 20 to 40 new ones they were going to radiate. She had been doing your work for 2 years. Both of them said, we had to keep changing before we got our full healing. Now, I know they're both still in progress, But she somehow went back from a week-long Maui trip to her radiation treatment. They were doing the final MRI, and they had all disappeared. 20 to 40 brain tumors, I'm pretty sure she had said, just deleted. So I said, you're my new 4-minute mile, because I only got one to go.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to go. And I've always known I was going to heal it. Actually, I forgot to tell you. Dr. Keith Black. Do you know Dr. Keith Black at Cedars?
Mm-hmm.
When he and I sat together after I had surgery, and, I was a little disappointed all of it didn't come out, but he would have paralyzed me, and we decided that was not a good idea. I said, he's like, I want you to radiate the rest of it. And I said, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't feel good about that. I saw what radiation did to my mom. I want no part of it. He's like, it's different. I go, no, I don't think it's different. I'm going to heal myself. I said, I know you're going to think I'm crazy. And he said, I don't think you're crazy. He's like, I've had one person do it, and I believe in you. And I told him about your work back then and how I just interviewed you, or I was about to interview, whatever it was. I had just come familiar with your work. And that was another epiphany I had at the event, where I was like, oh, I said I was going to do this. I didn't know this was how it was going to happen. But it was like, even just like my dreams growing up. My parents were janitors, and I used to dream so big. I'm like, someday I'm going to have a house. It looks like the White House, and it's going to be so big, and I'm going to have this and that. I have everything I said. How did I know it was going to happen? I was a poor Greek girl from Medford, Massachusetts. I had no business having any of this. Mm-hmm. But it did. Mm-hmm. So I know the same thing is possible with my health. And I know you talk about how our thoughts can make us sick. So if our thoughts can make us sick, they can make us well. And I really want you to help hammer that home for people.
Well,
because my thoughts made me sick.
Yeah.
My mom's thoughts made her sick.
Yeah. And it's that bottle that just,
Is this bad?
No, I'm saying the amount of emotion that comes with the thought. Because every time you have a thought, you make a chemical. Right? If you have a good thought and you have a chemical that makes you feel good, you have an arousing thought that causes you to feel angry. Short term, that's okay. But the long-term effects of that keeps knocking the brain and body out of balance. So when we turn on that primitive nervous system called the fight or flight nervous system, we're mobilizing enormous amounts of energy in our body's resources that we would typically use for healing, digestion, reproduction, whatever, assimilation. We're robbing those systems, and we're saying there's a threat, there's a danger, there's something really, it needs all of your attention in your outer environment, and that arousal causes us to feel fear or any derivative of it, aggression or anger or pain. So when we respond to the environment like that, our body's knocked out of balance because we're mobilizing all that energy. Pupils dilate, respiratory rate goes up, heart rate goes up, digestive juices shut down, blood is sent to the extremities. The body's ready to run, fight, or hide. All organisms in nature can tolerate that short term. If you turn on that stress response and you can't turn it off, now you're headed for disease, because no organism can live in emergency mode without a moment for regeneration or growth and repair. All right, so the arousal for some reason feels good to human beings, and that arousal gives us a rush of energy, and then we need the bad news, we need the problems in our life, we need the poor relationship, we need whatever it is to cause us to feel this kind of arousal.
Because we're addicted to it.
We become addicted to the life we don't even like. Mm-hmm. So then
that's the biggest aha moment. It's like, you actually become addicted to the life you don't want.
Right. So take it a step further. Then when you think about that life, you produce the same chemistry in your brain and body in the same exact way as if you were actually re-experiencing it. So now the thought is turning on the stress response. And it's a scientific fact that the long-term effects of the hormones of stress push the genetic buttons and create disease. Well, if you can turn on that stress response just by thought alone, then your thoughts can make you sick. So because you're knocking your brain and body out of balance over and over again and depleting your body's resources that you could be using for healing. And it just turns out the stronger the emotion you feel, the more you pay attention to the person or the problem. And that's our vital life force we're giving to that person or that problem.
Well, and then we're telling the story 50 different times to all of our friends. Can you believe this? And then this.
Reaffirming the same feeling over and over again. And the body's actually moving out of balance more and more every time we do that. We're actually draining the body from energy, right? So So it makes sense then that when people do this a long time, then they can't feel anything else but anger, fear, pain, suffering, guilt, shame, anxiety, competition, envy, jealousy, insecurity, resentment. Those are all derived from the hormones of stress, and psychology calls those normal human states of consciousness. Those are altered states of consciousness. So it makes sense then that if those emotions make us feel one way because the body is always out of balance, we decided to do an experiment. We took 117 people and we said, listen, we want you to stop feeling those emotions just for 3 times a day for 15 minutes. We're just going to practice feeling a different emotion. Yeah, I know, but I can't feel it. I know you can't feel it now because you're really good at feeling that other stuff. But if we work with you, just work with us. Turns out 10, 15 minutes of gratitude 2 or 3 times a day, their immune system strengthened by 50%. They made the most robust immunoglobulin, immunoglobulin A, which is the primary defense against bacteria and viruses. The body's getting a boost. There's an internal army now. And it turns out that when that occurs, a lot of pain and inflammation goes away and a lot of immune-mediated conditions from cancer all the way to food allergies and everything in between. So we found out that your thoughts could actually make you well.
Mm-hmm. So, whenever just yesterday when I had a little bit of a rickety day, it was one of the first times I had to use my inhaler since. And it was because I was a little stressed. And how funny, the body couldn't now probably breathe properly, whatever it was.
Old pattern.
I caught it pretty fast. And then I gave myself compassion this morning. I said, Maria, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to take me back so far in my healing, because now if I was to do blood work today, it would be different. That was the perfectionist in me. And I was like, okay, perfectionism, got it. Next thing we got to keep really working on is getting rid of those thoughts. Because as I'm conquering the other things, I'm like, okay, this is the next thing. But I was like, you know what? It was just a couple of moments and you totally redeemed yourself this morning. So all good. Because up until now, there have been maybe one other moment, like I've been really, really good. And so the perfectionist in you will catch things really fast and start to sabotage.
Mm. Well, I think it's more important to have fun. I play with this, it's not that you react. I mean, we all react. The question is how long?
Yeah, that's
and
the key.
So learning how to shorten the refractory period of your emotional responses is worth more than all the gold in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can't control your emotional reactions to conditions in your life, they turn into moods. Those are one long emotion into temperaments and ultimately personality. And so then learning how to do that and catching yourself is the learning process. And that's so important for a perfectionist to see it as like, hey, I did pretty good. I fell off the horse. I got back on. Not a big deal. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
The person who says, "Oh, I failed. I'm not good at this. I'm going to get sick again." That's a huge default, and that's kind of talking ourselves out of change. It's so important for us to realize that this is a very intense process. It takes an enormous amount of awareness, an enormous amount of energy to master yourself in that moment, because valid, justified, or not, the only person that it's hurting is you. And when you finally figure that out, as my daughter would say, living by this emotion isn't loving to me. And
Yeah.
we have to really decide, is this loving to me? So it turns out when you teach people how to feel elevated emotions, they make so many wonderful chemicals that make them feel good, that they're no longer dependent on anything outside of them to take away their emptiness, their lack, their separation, their pain, their fear. They're actually learning how to do it without any exogenous substance, without anything outside of them, without any scrolling through anything. This feels way better than any of that. Now, that's the moment where we're all of a sudden free from our environment. And people self-regulate. And when that happens, their health gets better. They have a headache, it improves. They have pain, it changes. They learn that they can do it by thought alone. How valuable is that? I don't know. If we could teach our kids that, it would be amazing, right?
It would be amazing for everybody. But that's I feel free because I don't have those thoughts anymore. If they do, they're very quick and I can get rid of them, or I can meditate myself back into a good place, whatever it is. And so I'm grateful you just shared that, because I was having to tell myself that this morning. I was like, you're fine. You've been doing so great. Like you're, you know,
No,
you're good.
take it. Just remember, it's an experiment. I always go, it's an experiment. Okay. I went unconscious. Okay. How long are you going to do that for? How long are you going to feel bad? Okay. Just knock it off. Okay. Let's get back.
Yeah.
And I always say to myself, God, I'm so happy that I did that, because the alternative is just a lot of pretending.
Well, also it shows you growth, right? Because if everything's going jolly, you don't really know until you're tested how you're going to be. So even Kelsey, you were helping me in that moment where I was, you know, worried about Maximus and his leg and getting him to a vet because we're traveling tomorrow for a while. And I said, Kelsey, I need help. I don't know how to do this Google Drive, collect everything, put it in. Can you help me? And I said to you, normally I would be at like 100 right now. I'm at a 1. And you said, yeah, I know. So it was like, you have to be tested. I'm curious for you girls listening, and especially you, Kelsey, with all your stomach stuff, is what he's saying about your thoughts having that kind of power over your health resonating with you?
Oh, yeah. Well, and I feel like it's something we talk about so often on the show, and it does. It makes perfect sense. I mean, I think, Dr. Joe, what you were saying, like, we don't even realize what we're thinking. It's like until you are like at this level of like super high awareness to be able to like catch it and be like, oh my God, I think this every second of every day or whatever it is. It's like,
or I'm unkind to myself.
Right.
We're
just in these routines. So I guess for me, it's like diving into the world of meditation. Where would one even begin? Because it's like, I'll go lay on the couch for 10 minutes and close my eyes. But like, is that the same thing as doing like the formula or, something like that?
Well, that's a really great point. Turns out the third thing about meditation that I didn't get to at the beginning is you're answering that question, and that is to learn how to change your brainwaves. And when you're aroused, you're in this beta brainwave pattern. It's a very, very high beta brainwave pattern. And that arousal is when you're feeling a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of depression, a lot of resentment. That's when the brain is super alert. Like it's got all of its attention on the outer environment. That's where the danger, that's where the cause is. And some people, when they get in that state, they overanalyze. And they can't slow their brain down, and they overfocus, and they try to control, and they try to predict, and they have the perception that everything's going to get worse in their life, and they get ready for the worst thing all the time. And that's what you do when you're in survival, right? So when we're in that state, we become overfocused. We narrow our focus on the material world. The chemicals cause us to become materialists, and our senses are heightened, and our senses plug us in the reality. So now we're more engaged in the 3D world. Nothing wrong with that, but you can't stay there for a period of time. We found out that when you do this when you go to sleep. What do you do when you go to sleep? You just kind of lay there, and then you stop thinking. And that you think of nothing. And when you think of nothing, you actually fall asleep.
And you restore.
and if you can't stop thinking, you actually can't go to sleep. So you can't slow your brainwaves down because you stay in that kind of analytical state. And our data shows that when you're in that analytical state and you're aroused by some emotion, you will actually make your brain worse because the analysis is actually making the chemicals for you to get more aroused, and you drive yourself further into these higher states because you're overfocused. So we said, okay, let's have people do the exact opposite. Let's have them focus on nothing, because that's what you do when you go to sleep. We'll just go from that narrow focus to kind of a broadened focus and just sense nothing, sense space, right? And the act of doing that actually slowed the brain waves down into mid-range beta, low-level beta, and then all of a sudden into alpha. Now, once you cross from beta to alpha, you go from your conscious mind to your subconscious mind. Now, what separates the conscious mind from the subconscious mind is actually the analytical mind. So when you're analyzing and thinking, you're in this beta brainwave pattern, you close your eyes and you start relaxing, your inner world starts becoming more real than your outer world, and your brain stops talking to you like the chatter in your head. And so that analysis tends to suppress, and you start to see more in images and pictures. You get creative. That's alpha.
Yeah, you're like in a VR world.
Yeah, exactly. If you can let yourself fall into a light sleep while you're sitting there, you move into this theta brainwave pattern, and that tends to be when the door between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind is wide open. There's no editor. So you could actually rewrite a program. You could actually install a new rehearsal, a new way of being. That's exactly how we rewrite the program. So we teach people how to regulate through those states, and just before you fall asleep on the couch, We want you right at that point where you haven't fallen asleep, but you could. And right there, if you can stay relaxed in your heart, we can teach you how to do that. While you stay awake in your brain, you can make some really dramatic changes, because when you have no analytical mind, you're suggestible to information. And what is suggestibility? Your ability to accept it, believe it, to surrender to it as if it's the truth without analyzing it. And that's what actually programs the autonomic nervous system. So we teach people how to regulate their brain states so that they can reprogram.
Yeah, you're getting into like the spot where you can change your life.
You can't do it in beta. Because you're outside the operating system. And in fact, you can say, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm free. And that thought never makes it past the brainstem to the body, because the body's saying, no, you're not. You're miserable. You're unhappy. You're in fear. That you're not affirming anything that the body is agreeing with. So you get a person into a state of gratitude. Well, that's a very interesting emotional state, because when you receive something, or you just receive something favorable, something wonderful happened to you, or something wonderful is happening to you, you feel this intense feeling of gratitude. So its emotional signature is something wonderful is happening to you. You feel gratitude, I guarantee you will accept, believe, and surrender to those thoughts that you're thinking. And that will actually program the autonomic nervous system into a different outcome. So we got to get that person in that state of receivership, right? And so meditation and changing your brain waves is an important element.
Will you explain coherent heart and coherent brain? Kelsey's like, yeah, that's what I want to next.
Yep, wrote that down.
Well, this isn't foreign to any of us. Let's talk about incoherence. When you're in that high beta state and you can't predict or control anything in your life, you have the perception that things are going to get really bad, and you switch on that system. What you want to do now is control and predict everything in your life, because you know you're getting ready for the worst thing that could possibly happen. So as you begin to think about every person, every object, every meeting, every place, that's all mapped in your brain, and you're shifting your attention to all of these elements, the brain starts to fire out of order because of your attention shifting so quickly, because every person, every object, everything has a neurological network in your brain. Keep that up in high beta. The brain starts to compartmentalize. It's a house divided against itself. And when the brain's incoherent, we're incoherent. When the brain isn't working right, we're not working right. And that default state actually is an unhealthy state for the brain to function in. So people become reliant on whatever it is that makes the discord go away. They try to make the feeling go away by gaming or
smoking pot.
Whatever it is they need to do to settle down that high beta state. Okay, well, you're on the Zoom meeting, right? And you got the gas pedal on, you're judging that person on the Zoom call, you want to reach across the screen and throttle them, but you're smiling and you're stepping on the brake. So your heart is racing because it's pumping blood. It's what it does when it's under sympathetic dominance. But you're not running and you're not fighting, you're not hiding. So the heart is actually beating against the closed system. You keep that up, the heart starts beating very incoherently. And when incoherent waves interfere, you lose energy. So you lose energy in the heart and you lose energy in the brain. And so then we just become automatic. That's the default, right? That's 95% of who we are. So our data shows over and over again that you can make your brain more coherent. What does that mean? When you're sensing nothing, when you're sensing space, the act of sensing causes you to stop thinking and analyzing. Mm-hmm. And if you're sensing and you're feeling, you're experiencing, you're noticing, and you're doing that, you're not analyzing, and your brain waves naturally change from beta to alpha. But
it feels so good.
When you drop down to that level, if you stay at it, there comes this moment where those different compartments of the brain that were once firing out of order, out of rhythm, all of a sudden starts beating in cadence, and they start to synchronize. The front of the brain starts talking to the back of the brain. These networks over here start oscillating with these networks, and all of a sudden you see recruiting of more communities of neurons firing in the same rhythm. And all of a sudden, when the whole brain is firing the same rhythm, that's called coherence, and that's a very strong signal to the brain that causes a very strong signal to the body that everything's moving back to regulation. Stress is autonomic dysregulation. This kind of cadence is causing autonomic regulation. The body's going, whoa, 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 information is traveling along the nervous system that's very coherent, very, very consistent, and is carrying the right information. So then, when the brain is coherent, then, there's a more energy because waves build on waves. And so all we see this happen. And all of a sudden we see a person move into theta. And if they can just hang in there a little bit longer, something really profound happens. They move into these super aroused states of gamma. Now, gamma is super consciousness. It's actually faster than high beta. Only difference is it's very compressed and it's very organized. So the entire brain now functioning in gamma, the person's having a very profound arousal. Now, the arousal is not fear. The arousal is not anger. The arousal is not pain. The arousal is ecstasy. The arousal is bliss. The arousal is something they could say it's connection or love. At the same time, we see the heart all of a sudden feeling this feeling start to move into this beautiful rhythm, boom. And all of a sudden the heart starts to cause the body to move out of survival and drop down into this relaxed state. So we become relaxed in our heart. And when that happens, waves tend to build on waves. Let's see if I can explain this. We see in the brain a very slow wave called delta. That's deep sleep, but the person's oscillating in delta in coherence. And then the wave riding delta is theta, like in a harmonic.
Two dolphins.
Yeah, and then here comes alpha riding on theta, and then beta on there, and all of a sudden you see the person go into this gamma state, and the heart is telling the brain, it's safe to create now. It's safe to be in the present moment. There is the danger, the threat, the trauma's over. And the heart literally informs the brain that the event is over, and it resets the baseline for anxiety, for trauma in the survival center, the amygdala of the brain. And all of a sudden, the person can relax into the unknown, the present moment, and no danger. Nothing happens that they're so afraid, and the unknown is always the scary place. That's how we survived and adapted for thousands of years. Now, the unknown is the perfect place to create in. The person's relaxed in their heart, and the heart's sending this beautiful rhythm. And when that happens, it's causing these waves of energy in the brain, and the brain is receiving it from the heart. It's saying it can get creative. This is the creative center. So now the heart and the brain start working together, and somehow there's a profound shift in everything, from electromagnetism to biology to neurocircuitry to neurohormones. And you see the person not wanting the moment to end.
Yeah.
And when the heart beats in rhythm, it produces a very profound magnetic field that's up to 3 meters wide, right? So you got this broadband base that tends to be magnetic, and you have a coherent brain, which tends to be electric. So the thought becomes the electrical charge, the directive. You send the signal out into whatever it is that you want into the field. You got to feel a feeling before it happens in the quantum. Get a coherent heart, and you begin to draw the experience to you. So when there's a vibrational match between your energy and some possibility that exists in the quantum field that you haven't experienced yet, the cool thing about it is now we don't have to go anywhere and do something to get it. You do that in three-dimensional reality when you're matter trying to change matter. When you're creating from the field in connection instead of from matter, the events tend to come to you instead of you going to get them. Now, that's the fun part, right? That's why we do it. So what I love the most about our community is that they get it. They're not, they once they get it and they feel it, they want to feel more of it. There's nothing wrong with that. They want to experiment more. They don't want to go back to that stuff. They outgrow it, like they outgrow a shirt that they no longer ever want to wear again. You're never going to wear that shirt again. You just outgrow things. And now this kind of regulation that leads to all these mystical and unknown cool experiences causes the person to be less interested in television, less interested in all.
Wait, that's me. I stopped watching stuff.
And
my
why?
husband's like, our life is going to be so messed up now. I go, honey, I'm so sorry. My best friend had come into town. It was like the week before the event. And normally, like, we have like the things that we do. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, you guys. It's not you, it's me. I just want to go upstairs and meditate. I don't want to play cards and I don't want to watch TV. So yeah, you want that feeling. Yeah. So I must have gone into gamma. I know I wrote in my notes that I went into gamma for sure at the event, but I must have gone into gamma to reprogram the amygdala to remove the anxiety, right?
Yeah. So we find that people are moving into these states of gamma, and they're they're not even aware. A good percentage of them not even aware that they're in this state because they're so relaxed in the present moment, and they're so awake in their brain. There's this beautiful gamma pattern that takes place, and once the heart informs the brain, it dumps the baseline for those stress hormones to a different level. It happens really quickly.
So one of the cool things that I started seeing when I was doing the progressive at home was like I could feel my body lift out of my legs, like just whoosh, and I would get so scared. And I remember in the class you said, you're only one thought away. Don't be afraid. So then I started to train myself like, don't be afraid. We're just going to go. And at the event, there was there were some crazy moments. I was in this amphibian world, and then I was in a blue water world where I could feel the mist of water on my face. I was on a cliffside being healed. There was a bed. It looked like it was like in Jerusalem, and I was on a cliff being healed. I had the Virgin Mary. I had Jesus like right there with me in my coherence healing. There were crazy, insane moments. So when you go into those mystical places in your meditations, first of all, I always say if kids knew they could do this, they would never do drugs because it's free. And you really you're swimming in these places. It's so cool. Is that gamma?
We have seen people in very, very high states of gamma having very profound mystical experiences. In fact, so way outside of normal that some of the scientists actually broke the person from the meditation because they were worried. They had never seen anything like it. And of course, the person was having a very, very, very profound, very full-on sensory experience without their senses. And they were in a whole nother world. And they were like, what did you just, they were having a profound moment. But we also see people in very, very deep levels of theta having really lucid moments as well. So I don't want to categorize it as one brainwave state or another, but when there's an arousal, it tends to cause everything to become very real. You're moving into gamma, and you have not in the neocortex. The gamma is in the limbic brain, the seat of the autonomic nervous system. The arousal, that coherence and that very high frequency is regulating information. Energy is informing matter, and the body's feeling very electric. It's feeling very enlivened. And so the person, when they have that moment, of course, they feel that new feeling. They're going to pay attention deeply to the pictures that they're experiencing in their brain. It's going to seem very real. Now, the cool part about that is, what is real? Reality is where all of your attention is, right? And if all of your attention is in that world, I'm not a whales in space guy, I'm a pretty practical person.
But that's why you're a good teacher, because we know that.
And when I wanted to know, when I saw a person 200, 300, 400, 500 standard deviations outside of normal in gamma, please just tell me what happened. And, these stories are profoundly enriching, so the person, when they come back to their self again, the experience tends to enrich circuits in their brain, and the feeling that they feel, that electrical arousal, tends to remove the body out of the past into the present, and they get a biological upgrade a lot of time. The cells start jiggling the energy and frequency, and the cells start emitting more coherent light and information, and there's the tumor, then it's gone. There's the eczema, and it's gone. It's gone.
It's a whole new addiction.
So
I traded up in my addiction.
so when you have a few of those, when you come back to your senses and you come back to your personality, your spectrum of reality is broadened, right? We don't see things how they are, we see things how we are. So the inner experience that's so profoundly lucid is actually reorganizing circuitry in the brain for you to perceive more of reality that always existed.
Yeah.
But we just didn't have the circuitry to perceive it. Now, this is when it gets fun, because now you can it's a scientific fact that we perceive less than 1% of reality. The statistics say it's 100%. The mathematics say we perceive less than 1% of reality. So this is the moment where you get an upgrade to the circuitry in your brain, and now you broaden your perception of the way the world really is.
Yeah. Well, we couldn't possibly even understand the space of the universe, right? And and what exists out there, right? And we're also growing. I was reading something the other day. We're growing at faster paces. The universe is growing at faster paces than scientists even ever thought. So we can't understand that. We can't understand this either. I want to go back to fight or flight for a minute, because I was able to see my mom and what got her to where she ended up, right? So she was in fight or flight 24/7. My dad was severe type 1 diabetic, and she didn't even sleep at night because she was afraid he was going to die in a low blood sugar attack. Funny enough, when you get to understand some of this work, this makes sense. We didn't know how to categorize it back then, but my dad would have nightmares of dogs chasing him. And it would be as if his body was really being chased. His blood sugar would drop. He'd be in a pool of sweat. And only by, my mom noticing, because she wasn't sleeping, would she be able to save him from a complete, death from low blood sugar. So I watch her pattern. She was in fight or flight her whole life trying to keep him alive. And then I was the lieutenant right under her. And we would just feel. I'd be in school and have no idea, but I knew he was sick and he needed me. And I would race home, skip a class, and find him comatose on the floor. So we were so connected with him that we would know when he wasn't okay, and he wasn't okay all the time. So the both of us got that. And then we both had kind of a lot of the toxic work situations too, that just now we didn't have boundaries. We were never taught boundaries. So now that anger just kept building and building and building. And when I thought about where the anger goes in the progressive chorus, it goes right up to that pineal area, I'm pretty sure, from that diagram. I was like, oh yeah, we kind of did this with our thoughts. And I know a lot of people have a hard time with that notion, but I'll accept it for myself. I believe that we were the illness and it was unknowing. We didn't have tools. We didn't know. We did the best we could with what we had in those times. But it is our thoughts and the way we were living and the way we were so fearful and so worried and in trying to control everything that got us brain tumors, because the top researcher says it's like lightning striking twice. This doesn't happen. So, and it's not genetics, and they weren't genetically connected or anything. So I want, for the sake of the people, because I know a lot of people who are listening to this have autoimmune conditions, I want to really hammer home fight or flight, because I know Kelsey's even nodding in there. You've had your versions of it as well.
Oh, yeah.
And what we're doing to ourselves so that they can really see the control that we can have if we start to focus on it. And even though you say it's hard and it's a lot of work, it really isn't, because the second you get in and you start to understand this is scientific, and that's why your approach is so different, and why I think that you are resonating so much more with people, because it's not woo-woo. Some of the woo-woos are saying similar stuff, but yours is science-based, and there is 100% success stories to see that you can buy into and believe, and you're doing so much scientific, research as well. I just want people to really have that breakthrough to understand that this fight or flight thing, I was watching women at the event. There was a woman who was like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. And we were all having this thing like, what if we're not doing it right? Because as women, we want to be perfect. And we're taught to be good girls and to be perfect growing up. And we're going into a coherence healing. And this one woman is running around trying to find her friend over here. And I'm watching her and I'm like, oh my God, she's killing herself.
Yeah. Well, here's the cool thing about being human. We can all relate to this. This is so primitive. It's so innate in us. The game that we've been playing for as long as you want to believe human beings have been here is the game of survival. I mean, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, it wasn't easy being human. I mean, you could die from all kinds of things, and famine and predators and all of those things were important elements to keep us alive. And in fact, fear was really adaptive. You don't walk up to a lion and pet it. Something tells you instinctually to not do that, right? So that's very adaptive. And when stress becomes maladaptive, it's a different story, because when we react to someone or something that's in our lives, your reaction, whether it's a lion or your mother-in-law, doesn't matter to the body.
Yeah.
Because if it's a lion, for the most part, you're not going to go 20% in. You're not going to go 40%. If it's a lion, you're going to go 100% in, right? So, but if it's your mother-in-law and you're having the same response, what was once very adaptive becomes very maladaptive, right? So it turns out that, as I said, valid or justified, the only person that is actually hurting is you, because you're knocking your body out of homeostasis. You're knocking your body out of balance. Health is balance. Health is order. So let's see if we could drive this home really well. You have 3 types of stress: physical, chemical, and emotional. Physical stress is trauma, accidents, injuries, falls. Chemical stress is viruses, bacteria, blood sugar levels, hangovers, toxins, pesticides, pollutants. And then emotional stress is just your reaction to everyone and everything in your life. Well, 75 to 90% of a person that walks into a healthcare facility in the Western world walks in because of psychological and emotional stress. You could have the best diet. You could eat gluten-free, vegan, ketogenic, intermittent fasting with a little macrobiotics on the side, organic, all of that. Take all your vitamins, take all your supplements, all your herbs, drink your teas, do all of that. You could work out, you could run, you could do Pilates, you could do yoga, what doesn't matter. Get yourself chemically balanced, get yourself physically balanced. But if you haven't taken care of your responses to everyone and everything in your life, your cells, when you're living in fear and perfectionism and rigidity, the signal to the cell is there's a danger, there's a threat. And the cell is going to take the signal, and the cell is going to make a protein from a gene. And if you keep signaling the cell that there's danger in the environment, the cell is going to start to down-regulate a gene and make a cheaper protein. So then you could actually wind up creating organic fear proteins. That's what you're making, right? Because the body still isn't in a place to rest. So person can't sleep. Then they can't sleep. They can't restore. They can't digest. There's an emergency out there. How can you digest if your body's perceiving that the next moment there's going to be danger? Your immune system's dialed way down. There's no energy for long-term building projects. Everybody's attention is on the outer world. There's no homeland security. Everybody's out fighting the fight, right? So the reproductive system says, this is not a time to grow a baby. The brain, the blood flow goes to the hindbrain away from the forebrain. You stop thinking, you start reasoning, you start reacting to everyone and everything. Blood sends adrenaline and liquid energy to the muscles, but you're not fighting, you're not running, you're not hiding. Muscles get tight. It's just stored energy in there, and the body stays in that kind of maladaptive state, and that imbalance becomes the new balance, and now we're headed for some type of crash, some type of disorder, some type of disease. And when we're in that state, we're altered, and there's always a gap between the way things appear and the way things really are. And if we act during that period, we'll always say, I should have never said that. I should have never done that. I should have never sent that email. I should have never thought that. Because we're altered in that state. In survival, we're selfish. When you're getting chased by T-Rex, there's 3 things you're thinking about. My body, like, hey, I better take care of this. In my environment, where am I going to run? And how much time do I have to get there? The body, the environment, and time. So the stress hormones actually cause us to feel more like our bodies, pay more attention to objects and things in our environment, obsess about time. To change is to be greater than your body, to be greater than your environment, to be greater than time. Stress is not a time to change. Stress is time to run, fight, and hide. And if you spend 70% of your day living in that state, there's no energy for a person to ever repair. There's no energy. And
there's no energy, period. Forget just to repair.
And so the dysregulation that's happening in the autonomic nervous system, remember, stress is moving the body out of balance, right? So it's the autonomic nervous system that's mobilizing all that energy, right? And starts dysregulating because it could never catch up, right? So when we start creating brain and heart coherence, the autonomic nervous system is moving back towards regulation, is moving back towards order, and there's an innate capacity for the body to say the war is over. The trauma's done. Let's get back to growth and repair. Turns out the more coherent that autonomic nervous system is, the more regulated it is, the more information can travel to the cells and tissues and organs of the body with the proper cadence, with the proper signals, right? So the body starts up-regulating back to balance and back to health. And so autoimmune conditions tend to be one of those conditions that heal really fast in this work. Inflammation heals really fast in this work. Cancers do really well in this work. Neurological disorders do really well in this work because there's a lot more regulation that goes on. So if you can get your body more emotionally balanced and more physically balanced and more chemically balanced, then you'll be more resilient. Mm-hmm. So then the trauma, the thing that falls apart in your life, your response won't be the same because you're out of survival, right? And relaxed in the heart and awake in the brain is so much better than stressed out, unconscious, and living in a program. And that seems to be what's accepted as normal in the world.
Perfect explanation. Kelsey, right?
Yep.
I see her nodding in there. One of the things you talk about is like new behaviors, right? So I want to give people just something they can grab onto right now. It's like you say, you wake up, you do the same things, whatever. So I knew one of the things I grabbed fast was like new behaviors will create a new reality. And so I try to mix it up. Instead of making a coffee like I normally would in the morning, sometimes I'll run out and grab one at the coffee shop, or I'll go to another coffee shop. I just try to change my routine every day so it's not overlapping the same over day. What can people do that's conscious like that to help start changing themselves?
Yeah, 86% of the people in the Western world, the first thing they do when they wake up in the morning is grab their cell phone. That's almost 9 out of 10 people. So more than likely, there's a good percentage of people that are watching this podcast or listening to it that do that. And when they reach for their cell phone and they look through their Facebook and their Instagram and their TikTok and their emails and their Twitter and do all of that, they're connecting to everything that's known in their life. They're actually making sure that they're connected in a certain way. In place of that, you can still do that, but before you grab unconsciously for your phone and start changing your chemicals in your body, it would be such a great idea to sit down and before you start your day, just review the thoughts you don't want to think. Review the behaviors you really want to change about yourself. Just review them. Just go over them in your mind. Review the emotions that you feel the most in a day and just remember that those emotions aren't loving to you. Just review them in the beginning, just so that you're aware of them. If they change, you'll start becoming aware of them. And once you can observe them, you're no longer the program. Once you're conscious of them, you're no longer unconscious, right? You're out of the program. Before you start the day, ask yourself, how do I want to think today? How do I want to feel? How do I want to behave? I mean, what would greatness look like? What would love look like today? What could I do that would be really cool for me at the end of the day? Say, wow, so I had a good day today. What would make me feel that way? And if you can't find an answer to that, start reading. Who reads anymore? Read a book.
I read so many books a week.
I know, I'm that way too. So read something about, you want to be wealthy? Read a book about someone who became wealthy and get real and realize they may have failed 50 times before they actually pulled it off. Or what were their characteristics? What were their traits? What made them? So it wasn't about their wealth. It was about who they became. That's the key, right? So fill your brain with a little knowledge and then just start asking yourself, what's the greatest expression of myself that I can be today? And rehearse it. Rehearse how you're going to be. And then if it leads to a different choice, that's the unknown. Mm-hmm. And just know that it's not going to be predictable. It's going to be a little uncomfortable. That's where the magic happens. If you can stay relaxed and awake in the unknown, things get pretty exciting. When you're back to the known, you're back to the familiar. Don't expect anything to change in your life. And if you say it's that person or that circumstance, you defaulted and went back to the program of the victim, allowing your outer environment controlling your thoughts and feelings. If you truly do this well, this is what I discovered. If I truly feel the feelings of my future before they occur, and I live in that state, I'm no longer looking for it to happen. How could I look for it if I feel like it already has, right? So I try to stay in that state because then I'm not separate from it. And that tends to be when the magic happens. There's no control anymore. There's no predicting. There's no perfectionism. There's none of all there is just kind of an experiment. Like I'm experimenting to see if I changed my thoughts and feelings, if my life will change. And that should be the experiment everybody has. And do it with curiosity, and do it with just seeing if the experiment works. If it doesn't, change something else about yourself until it starts to work.
Well, those experiments are what's so fun, right? So when you're creating I wrote down the list of things I never wanted to feel again. I wrote down the things I wanted in my new life. So I had my H, and then I would have my N, so my new life. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about all this adventure and so much fun that I wanted to have. And even just, I know this is silly, but this weekend, I asked my husband, I go, do you want to go on a hike? And normally he growls at me. And he said, sure. I said, all right, why don't we go somewhere new we've never gone? Let me just look up like crazy cool hikes that end in a waterfall. I really want to see a waterfall. So I said, I found one. And I said, it's in Sunland. He goes, oh, cool. I want to go out that way. It's like quiet and wide and not frenetic. I said, yeah, let's go there. I picked the easiest hike. It's only 2 miles because I know you don't have a lot of energy. He's very burnt out. And I said, we'll just do that. So we went, and it started out hard, and I could tell he was like, oh, frig, I want to kill her. And long story short, we kept going and going, and every hiker would tell us we were a mile away.
I've been on those hikes.
And it was hard on me. And I'm somebody, and I'm wearing leg weights thinking it's only 2 miles. We went 6 miles. We had to rappel down rocks with rope. There was this whole experience that was so cool. And I gave him opportunities to quit along the way. And then we had one good opportunity when we actually could see the waterfall from a distance, but we could get closer. I said, but honey, we did it. We saw the waterfalls. He's like, no, I want to go. I'm like, who are you? And so we had this amazing experience. He loved it. He's like, yes, it was a lot, but I want to do this more. I don't want to sit on the recliner on weekends anymore. He loved his everything was watching TV on the recliner. So then it had to become my everything. And then I would rope him into some stuff here and there. Now he wants to go on adventures on weekends. That was what I was dreaming of in my head. As I dreamed about what I wanted our relationship to really look like, I created all these things in my head. He doesn't know I'm like Mr. Miyagiing him into whatever I want.
He's really going to like me, I'm sure.
No, but now he came back from that hike. He's like, I'm all in. I'm all in. Because he was in, but he's like, he was being precious about it. It's like, I have to do it when I have time and this and that. I go, no, there's never going to be time. But you do it when you want to do it. I'm not pressuring you, whatever you want. Now he's like, I am diving in. I'm landing this week. I'm going to do it in Connecticut when I get there. I was like, all right.
Nice.
So
now when the unknown becomes an adventure, you know you're over the hormones of stress, or at least changing the hormones of stress, because the unknown is a scary place in survival and stress. But when it becomes an adventure, it means now we're craving the unknown. And I think that's one of the things I love the most about our community, that people really crave the unknown. I mean, their mind is not limited in any way, and you got to if you believe in yourself, you got to believe in possibilities, right? If you believe in possibilities, you got to believe in yourself, and you're not going to get possibilities sitting on the recliner. You got to go out and get them.
Yeah. And it creates a zest for life. Like I have such a zest. I don't want to keep you much longer, even though I'm going to keep you here and I'm going to hide you in the basement. One last thing was something we started talking about earlier before we sat down, and it's like the energy field, right? So we talk about quantum physics a lot in your work, and I think it's so cool. But can we talk about a field in which the people around you are all getting the same things? Because I'm starting, as I said, to make the connections. Brain tumor, mom, brain tumor, me, brain tumor, 2 of my dogs. My dad, diabetes, my brother, diabetes, me, pre-diabetic, but I've been cleaning that up. My mom, thyroid, all of her side of the family thyroid, me thyroid, Kevin thyroid. My best friend, Kevin breaks teeth. We're in the kitchen talking about it. Then I broke a tooth and she broke a tooth. All of these things are happening around us. And there was a moment in the brain tumor journey where I started cracking jokes. Don't get too close to us. You might get a brain tumor. But that's messed up because it does happen. So is there something to that? Have you studied any of that?
No, we haven't really. Well, actually, it's kind of funny because I think you were at the event where we're studying twins.
Yes.
We studied 6 sets of twins. Yeah, 5 identical twins and 1 set of fraternal twins. And we're actually looking to see how much, gene expression can change when you change your emotional state and with identical twins that share pretty much the same genome. But then we started doing these cool experiments where we were separating them, and one was having a meditation, the other one was watching the History Channel, in this room or her room, just to see. And when this person had a profound experience, what kind of brain changes were they in training their partner to? So I do think that the more we are emotionally connected to people, the more suggestible we are to each other, right? Because I think we accept, believe, and surrender information that's equal to our emotional state, right? So maybe the sympathy or your connection to people in your life, the information goes in that it actually creates this kind of collective consciousness, that everybody starts to experience the same thing. But it could be like the 100th monkey. It could be in a really profound way where you start changing your energy and you start changing your emotions, and then you start moving to a greater frequency, and you break that pattern, and now all of a sudden everybody starts in training to a greater level.
Yes,
and that's what we're after, right? So I just think that's just a level of unconsciousness, because when we share the same emotions, we share the same memories, we can relate with one another. When we share the same energy, we share the same information. So we're prone or susceptible to that information. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think we have to really be very clear that that's something that I'm definitely not going to experience. If it slips past your analytical mind and you take it on and you feel it with that person, I mean, that's powerful voodoo. That's powerful medicine. Or powerful medicine, either way.
I'm aware now.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. Queens, I'm going to give you the last question.
Whoa. Dr. Joe, you talked about relaxing the heart, and you said you have a way to do it. How do we do it?
It's not something that you don't know how to do. It's just something that we want to make a skill for you. And so when people... First thing they have to do is they have to overcome their survival states. They have to overcome their programs. They're going to be willing to sit with themselves long enough to wonder what's on the other side of I can't, or it's too hard, or I want to give up, or this sucks. What's on the other side of those thoughts? Those are just programmed thoughts. What's on the other side of this emotion called guilt, or this emotion called frustration? What's on the other side of it, right? So you get people to a certain point, you give them a little bit of help, but the key then is we've done studies on this. If you close your eyes and you place your attention on your heart, it turns out where you place your attention is where you place your energy, right? So if you can put your attention on your heart and not your cell phone, and you can keep it on your heart and feel it and experience it and pay attention to it, by paying attention to your heart, you're actually giving it your energy. Now, your heart tends to feel different emotions than other parts of your body. And what emotions it loves to feel is love, compassion, care, kindness, gratitude, inspiration, freedom. These are elevated emotions. So if you could put your attention on your heart, we see from the technology that we built, in time, and not a very long amount of time, just a few minutes, you'll start to see this very low frequency of the heart start going up, which means the energy that's indigenous to the heart, what the heart uses only, you're actually feeding it. It's energy. Right? So if you could do that then, and then you can slow your breathing down. When you slow your breathing down, you slow your brain waves down. We've measured that thousands of times. So instead of this short breath, or instead of this kind of shallow breath, you really work on taking long, slow breaths through your heart. Inhale with the intention of relaxing. Hold it with the intention of relaxing while you hold it. Exhale with the intention of relaxing. Blow all the air out. Hold it for a few seconds. You're not going to die. Relax again. Inhale again. And just do a series of 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of these, depending on working with your body so that it starts to feel safe again. That's what it is. You slow your brain waves down, you slow your breathing down, you convert from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic, and that's what we see. Then all of a sudden we see the person's parasympathetic nervous system go up and the sympathetic goes down. What does that mean? They're moving out of stress. Okay, the body's moving into that state of growth and repair. Now put your attention on your heart. Now do something really cool. Amplify. That's the amplifier. That's the creative center. So what do you want to feel? Like, what emotion do you want to feel when a future experience happens? Whatever that is. Feel the gratitude, feel the joy, feel the freedom, and breathe and feel and breathe, and keep relaxing into your heart, keeping your attention nowhere else out of the millions of things you can put your attention on. That's your target. And you work with your body and you breathe and you feel. And as you start relaxing into your heart, you keep working on relaxing into your heart. And you feel it. You feel that emotion. There'll come a moment where that energy will naturally start moving up to the brain. And when that happens, the survival centers shut down. Brain moves into alpha. You see more in pictures and images. You could take it's like taking a sheet of paper, a sheet on a bed and going like this. The heart sends this propagating wave right into the brain. Just follows, boom, right after the stroke volume, and it's telling the brain to be creative, to dream, to be unlimited. So the more you do that, here's the key. The more you do it, the more it becomes a skill. Now, when a person has a panic attack, right, what they do is they mismanage their attention. They picture the worst scenario that could possibly take place, and then they say, no, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? So they're making it actually 10 times worse, because if you prepare for the worst, there's always better chances of survival. The problem is they're combining that image in their mind, and they're actually living the experience emotionally. And so they're taking that thought and that feeling, that image and that emotion, that stimulus and response, and they're conditioning the body subconsciously to become the mind of fear. After a certain point, when the body's that out of balance, it will have a panic attack. Try as you may to control it with your conscious mind. You can't. You programmed it subconsciously, and then it gets worse, because after that one, you can't anticipate when the next one's going to happen. So you start getting ready for the next one, and that's what exactly starts the cycle. Okay, so what we discovered, that the more you relax into your heart and feel these elevated emotions, it's exactly like a panic attack. Only it's a love attack. So we're looking at people's hearts for 24 hours. We see them sustain this beautiful coherence, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 60 minutes. They get good at it. They can do it now. They know they can do it. It feels really good. But then all of a sudden, they're wearing the heart rate monitor and they're not doing a meditation. And their heart is in coherence for an entire hour, and they're unpacking their suitcase and they're getting ready for bed. And this spontaneous feeling of love, just the body starts wanting to feel that because it's been conditioned to feel that, no different than being conditioned to fear. So we have to practice sustaining it. That's the key, right? So if you can sustain it more and more and practice with your heart, it'll get better. It'll get deeper. It'll get richer. It'll get more profound. It'll keep changing as you keep doing it. And for me, it's still changing. It still changes for me. So simple technique, rest your attention. And then after you rest your attention in there, slow your breathing down, bring up an elevated emotion, feel it within you, tune in, radiate it, shine, I don't know, whatever it is for you to glow in your heart there. And then we see this parasympathetic nervous system drop down, and here comes the sympathetic nervous system coming up, and now the person's relaxed in their heart. And they're moving into this gamma brainwave pattern. All of a sudden, waves start building on waves. They're standing waves, and all of a sudden, right up to the brain, and the person is out of the program. They're conscious now. They're relaxed in the present moment and awake in the brain. That sympathetic arousal is awakening the brain, creating that wonderful feeling of wakefulness, of bliss, of ecstasy, of a joy for existence, a gratitude, like I love being alive. And when that occurs, pro-social networks in the brain switch on, and instead of being protective and separate in survival, those pro-social networks cause us to want to connect and commune and form tribes and form communities and take care of one another and support each other and love one another and heal one another and shine for one another and inform one another and honor one another and respect one another. That's what happens when this center kind of opens up, and it's a different consciousness. It's an emergent consciousness. So we tend to be more present and appreciative when we're truly in this state.
And that's why it's mind, body, and soul healing. All of this work is healing everything.
Yeah. Well, I think, if you want to just touch on the soul for a second, I do think that, the soul's really interested in adventure. It really wants new experiences, right? And it can't go on to the next experience if it's stuck in an emotion from the past. It can't go. It can't go because that emotion's keeping the person anchored to the memories and the stories that go along with it. I would never tell a person to relive their past. I would always tell them to just overcome the emotion, because the memory without the emotional charge is wisdom, and that's what the soul wants. Like, I'm done with that. I'm done. I got the wisdom from it. I got all of eternity. I got a long time to figure this out, so I might as well create the next experience. So I think they all heal kind of simultaneously, one with the next.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that happened for me too at the event was, and I didn't realize that like I said, you see so many of the things that you need to fix or you need more of. And I was like, oh, I started feeling my heart. And I realized I wasn't loving myself. I wasn't loving my brain. I wasn't loving my body. And so now I have like that whole practice every day where I tell myself that I love myself. I tell myself what I'm proud of or what I've done that was good and what I'm working on. And I tell my brain that I love it and my body that I love it.
Let your heart love your brain. Just like this is basically when the heart and the brain are coherent, there's a love affair.
Yeah.
Between the heart and the brain. It's one of the most beautiful things. It really is a love affair. The heart, well, I'm telling you, it just loves the brain. It's an amazing thing.
And love and gratitude will heal too. And it's like the hippie stuff was kind of real. It's like it really is about love and having compassion for people where they're at, because they haven't gotten to that next level yet. They haven't gotten a tool yet that they need, whatever it is. So I think that was another thing that I learned. I mean, I could talk to you for hours about the things that I learned. I want to know one last thing. What is your vision from here?
Yeah, well,
where does this go? Where do you go?
Gosh, there's so many wonderful things that are happening right now just with our research. I was on the phone with one of the top researchers in our scientific team, and just every day the data that we're discovering is so important for people to know. I want to give people my greatest understanding of the truth and numerous opportunities to experience it. I want to free their minds and open their hearts with a simple formula that leads them to a door, right? A door of unlimited possibilities. And I want the door to show people that they are greater than they think, more powerful than they know, more unlimited than they could ever dream. And I think by providing people the science and taking it to a point where it's understandable and digestible, changes a consciousness. It changes a collective consciousness. And the testimonials are so important, because those 4-minute miles are opportunities for people to believe in themselves again, because someone else is doing it, right? So an emergent consciousness, emergence in biology, those flocks of birds and schools of fish that are moving and behaving in the same way. There's no leader in that process. It's not a top-down phenomenon. Everybody's leading, right? So the coming of a new consciousness it can't be done with the same consciousness that's created the problems that we have in the world today, And I think no matter what you believe, I think one thing that everybody is aware of, that something doesn't feel right, So providing people with the information, the right information that allows them to believe in themselves and to believe in possibility. The side effect of all of this is some really cool things happening in medical schools, where they want to investigate what we're doing and bring it into medical schools, in operating rooms now, with Navy SEALs and veterans with trauma. We are working with prisons and
that was amazing. Actually,
a lot of
those
prisons.
stories.
Yeah, some great prisons, and nobody's talking to these people about why they did what they did and what it really means to change, especially the ones that are going to walk out into the same environment. So we're working with lots of companies and organizations around the world and teaching them what true change means, and the neuroscience of culture, and how you change a culture, what it takes to change a culture, and what it takes to change individuals. So, and then then there's all kinds of fun things, like I'm so invested in our youth community right now, because they are the seeds of the future. And they're going to have to resolve the problems that were given to them from a greater level of consciousness. And they have to learn the principles of leadership. They have to ingrain that in them and embody it. They have to understand their hormones. They have to understand values. They have to understand how to create from the field instead of from matter, so they can shorten the distance between the thought of what they want and the experience of having it without having to work so hard to get it. And so we're investing a lot of my time and energy into our youth. And every event that we do, we have over 100 kids under the age of 25 that come, and they're very passionate. And I take time. I go and see them after I walk off the stage or at the end of the day, and I talk to them and I say, listen, I don't care if you go to school or you teach yourself. Just get really, really, really good at one thing. Just own it. Just know that you're the best at it. You do that, you'll always be valued. So, so many crazy things, so many wonderful things are happening with where we're at right now. So I'm pretty excited.
I like the idea I know you're getting close to be able to go to children's hospitals and do coherence healings.
We had a woman in the event in San Diego who is the top administrator for a children's hospital in Mexico City, and she had a profound healing
Really?
from her disease, and she's ready, and I'm not going to do it until I have the data that shows that our community 1 out of 2 times can produce a change that's 8, 9, or 10 out of 10 in a person's health. When we're 50%, and we have all the research that we're doing with all the questionnaires and all the epigenetic studies we're doing on the Heelys and the heart coherence, we're measuring to see if everybody's in a state of coherence when everybody's in the in the cage when they're healing another person. We're looking at the data. So when our data is all sorted out and we're 50%. That's when I'll be very comfortable in walking in there and changing children's lives. Children with cancer and children with tumors and children with all kinds of health conditions. We're seeing crazy stuff happening with this orphanage that we're working with in Mexico right now, with kids born with a lot of health conditions and tremendous reversal in their bodies. So it's pretty cool.
Thank you. Because this all started with you believing that you could heal yourself. And think of that ripple effect now, how massive. That one decision to say, no, I'm going to go do this myself, and to believe in yourself. You've shown so many people that they can have that same belief in themselves and that they can heal themselves. So thank you, because I look forward to calling you after my next MRI. I have very, very vivid visions where Dr. Black walks in the room and he has his same stoic face. And I'm like, just tell me, don't beat around the bush. Tell me. And then he tells me, and he says, you're a remarkable young woman, because that's something he would say. And then I start screaming and I roll around the ground like a pig in shit. And I get so excited. And then I see myself on stage giving my testimony. I have very, very clear visions of how this is all coming together. So I can't wait to give you that call. And I am so grateful, like forever grateful. Okay, before I cry. Thank you. Okay. Wow. I feel really, really grateful that we got 2 hours of his time, because he is a busy man traveling all over the world nonstop, giving these events and teachings to people. What do you two feel like now? Because I know that the first interview I did with him years ago was in some moments hard for you guys to grasp. Do you feel clearer on it?
Much. And I think honestly the difference is you've now gone through it all. And so like so many people, and I know I can speak for myself, I learned through you, right? So it's like when you're talking it out real time, it really helps me. And then it's like it makes him have to be the teacher a little bit more, but then you're also the teacher. So yeah, I felt like there was a lot of things that I was jaw on the floor in here, like very, like that clicked. It clicked for me. So yeah, I feel like I definitely.
So what's your biggest takeaway for you? Like you don't have to read notes. What clicked in your heart for you after now 2 parts of Dr. Joe?
I liked the swapping panic attacks for love attacks, because I think that that's something that I recently have really had kind of an aha with is, oh yeah, I don't, kind of like you were saying, I don't love myself. I've fought with my body since I could remember. And I have all these stomach issues, no doubt, because I'm fighting with my body. So it's like, yeah, swap the panic for love. And like you were saying at the end, it really is kind of like the hippy dippy, but like it's about love. It's about, we heard that from the woman this week too, surrendering and loving yourself. And I really think that like, it's that simple.
And you're pure, like you're love,
you.
Kelsey. So if you're not loving yourself, you really can't, they say you really can't love others.
Right.
So the same thing about me where I'm like, well, I love people and I love helping people and I'm super compassionate, but if I can't give it to myself, really, truly, am I really giving everything when I give it? I don't know.
Well, and that's probably where it's like we get so depleted, right? Because it's like we're just giving it all. And it's almost like I wouldn't say it's a fake give because it's authentic.
No, of course.
But you really aren't giving to yourself. You're just giving it all to everyone
That's
else.
A great breakthrough right there.
Yeah. So
and you can probably give so much more if you were giving to yourself.
Oh, for sure I am.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a whole other thing now.
Yeah.
Pooch, what takeaway for you at 22?
Arrived 22.
Yeah.
There
Arrived
she is.
22.
Arrived 22. Sorry, my head's in the corner for people on YouTube. My biggest thing was you've talked about how thoughts can make you sick, and I didn't not believe it, but I haven't really heard the science behind it. When he was explaining how like your fear protein is like released when you're like in those thoughts.
It takes it from your DNA.
Right. Yeah. Like it's
crazy.
actually like producing a cheaper and like less effective protein than, versus feelings that are of love or gratitude. I was like, oh my God, like our body's literally producing like these quote unquote bad proteins. I know that's not the best term for it, but it's actually making you sick. And when he was saying how he did a study where people, he tried to like get them to feel like good emotions for 15 minutes and their immune systems like improved by 50%. I was like, how can you argue with like science? Like it's data.
I think the study was 4 days of trading negative thoughts and emotions for positive ones raises your IgA levels by 50%.
It's amazing.
If we know that, now we can do so much with it. So I think, I mean, 40 million, I don't know, it's stupid how many millions of people have autoimmune conditions. And if you just do this work, you can shift that, turn that button off and turn on a new button that's actually going to be healing you. Yep. And then you're changing yourself, which is going to make you happier in your own body. So it's like he said, you can eat all the green juices and the ketos and the whatevers. That. He laughs, he jokes about all of us with our diets and our whatevers there at the event. He's like, it's you, it's your thoughts. It's not as much about what you're eating, because you can be eating really well. There's nothing wrong with eating well, obviously. We all want to eat well too. But it's not just the eating well. It's feeding your mind well, along with everything else. And if you're feeding your mind well, those little other things won't trigger as much. Like I know I have a friend who is gluten-free who's doing the work, and she was like, I tested it out and I had gluten and I was fine.
I did the same.
So it's not that, it's the other stuff that's killing us. It's your mind. And it's crazy because when you think about, we're all just out there in this world and we're all doing the same things. We're getting together. We're complaining about our problems. We're complaining about our health. We're complaining about politics. All that is energy that you are now spending out on that, when you could reserve it, maybe have positive conversations about like the good things in our lives. We never really do that, right? And then when someone does say it and everyone else is miserable, you're like, well, why can't you be happy for my success? Because we're not conditioned to talk about that stuff. So we've got to change the conversation. We have to change, our patterns, our redundant patterns that we're doing every day, thinking we're going to have, it's like they say, like you can't do the same things and expect different results. So switch it up, go on a hike, different hikes, go have a different coffee every day. Whatever you can do that's different will change your brain, because now your brain isn't using the same program every day. You're changing up the monotony with variety, and with variety comes unknown. Oh, a new flavor of the coffee. Wow, that's cool. Oh, a new hike. That's a whole new experience. That's fun. You got to change shit up. Yeah. And that's how you change you, and it's just, we aren't doing that, and no one's teaching us to do that. And that's why I'm so passionate about this, because even though it seems hard, it's not.
You know what else too I like about him? It's like he makes it seem not hard, but he also is like you're not good or bad. It's not black or white. And I really liked that. Like I wrote down the whole, it's not about not having the emotional reaction. It's about shortening that like reaction time.
Yeah. Cause we're human. We're going to get mad. It's not being positive and happy. Like you're punching me in the face. Thank you.
Right.
It's shortening the experience that you're going to give that energy, that anger out for. Right. Doesn't mean we don't want to suppress our anger, especially as women, because that's all we've been taught to do.
Right.
Let it out. But how long are you going to live in it? And then are you going to tell the story 10 different times where you're reliving those emotions? And now, because it's in the past, we also embellish the story, whether we like it or not. 50% of it isn't true anyway. And then you're living in those emotions as you're retelling the story.
Yep.
What are we doing to ourselves? Yeah. But we didn't know this. I didn't know this. I was doing this.
You know what's so crazy this weekend? So I went home for a family wedding, and there was something that happened that like made my mom upset. I was like that someone did to my sisters, and I was like, Mom, I literally used your analogy, Maria, of the energy reserve. I picked up a water bottle and I go,
no, you didn't.
On my life. I was like, Mom, this is our energy. What do you want to give it to? Because I thought it was hysterical. I was like, this is so funny that they're doing this. Like, they're how old, and they're doing this to like 20-year-olds. Like, this is funny. But my mom didn't find it funny. And I was like, Mom, like, what's the point? Now you're calling like my sisters, and then you're calling my dad. Like, oh, guess what happened? I'm like, and we're all together as a family. This doesn't happen very often. We're all like in different cities. Like, why are we giving this energy to people that don't deserve it? Like, let's reserve this energy. Like, we went in this water bottle, and we should, and it really clicked. She was like, call your sisters right now and tell them what you just told me. And like, it really clicked. And then again, this morning, I guess something must have happened, like, in her day, and she's like, but like, I thought of what you said, and I was like, wow, like, what's the point of giving away this energy? And I was like, this is so funny, because we're talking to the man himself today, so I just had to say that it's helping a lot of people. So
that makes me so happy. You're passing on the messages. Kevin is actually getting it and not getting annoyed with me, because the other day we were with a friend in the kitchen, and she's, they're having these like very intense conversations, and I go, Kevin, shh, you have so little energy. You're so burnt out, and look at how much you're using on something that has nothing to do with you. No attachment to you, no connection to you. Because everyone's all hyped up about talking about politics. Everyone's hyped up about talking whatever happened. And then, guys, we can talk about it. But you're going to level 10. You're using up so much energy. So he's actually really getting that now, and he's sharing the lessons. And here's the good thing about it, Pooj. As Dr. Joe says, the more you're explaining what you're learning, the more you're firing and wiring it into your brain. So for me, that's how I learned in school. I would take the information and be like, wait a second. So it's this, and this. And they'd say, yeah. And I'm like, okay, got it. That would then connect it for me. I can't just read it, or I couldn't just read it and have it really just get in there. That's how I got it in there. I knew I had to fire and wire it into my brain. So he's doing it. You're doing it. I'm doing it. Kelsey, I'm sure, is doing it, or is going to be doing it.
I write it down. Like, I'm going to take these notes and I'm going to go color code it with all my markers at home. Like, that's how because I'm the same way. I either have to speak it out or I have to write it out, or else it's like, poof,
same
another tool with collecting dust in my shed. But I'm like, no, I want these to solidify.
Yeah, well, that's why when I came home, I was like, okay, I was nervous at first after the event. How am I going to keep this knowledge, and how am I going to keep this real, so it's building and connecting more and more and more in my brain so it never leaves me? So I made a plan, and I was like, I'm going to do all of these meditations. I'm going to go all in, really devote myself to this, because I do want to change, and I do want to heal, and I do want to get better. And then in the mornings, I listen to him now on my YouTube. So I'll find something to listen to. And so I'm continuously getting those lessons, because sometimes you get 30% of it and you miss 10, and you're okay. Now I'll get the other 10 now. I'll get the other 5% tomorrow. And so I'm continuously staying entrenched in the work so that I can keep in that zone and keep getting better. So I'm really happy that you were able to have that breakthrough for your mom, because a wedding's a really joyous occasion. And you know what? People really tend to be to misbehave in those moments.
Yep.
And it really takes us down. And that's why I never wanted to have a wedding. And
Oh my God.
that's why my weddings were so unconventional, but still cool.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you're able to pass it on. And that's what makes me so excited about what we do here every single day, because we 3 and Kevin 4, most of the time he's with us,
And Winnie.
and Vincenza, we're all growing every day. We're all getting better. Like there's nothing more exciting in life than getting better, I think.
And learning. Yeah.
Because imagine us in our other worlds. Like I know my other worlds, I wasn't getting better, I was getting worse. And every day here, we're getting better, and we're doing it together because we're better together. Shoot, I didn't even expect that. And we have our Heal Squad that does it with us, who supports us and loves us. So Heal Squad, we love you. We thank you. Thank you for being on this journey with us every single day, and for hanging in with us on the tough times, because we've had a lot of tough times over the years with illness and stuff and needing breaks. And you guys are always there and supportive. So thank you for never leaving us. This summer, we have some fun stuff for you. We're going to do some fun little excursions that we're going to, show you around. That's the goal. So we're putting some cool things together, because I know the summers usually people kind of tune out a podcast. We don't want you to go because we don't want to go.
Truly.
We want to be with you. So I hope you guys want to be with us. And for the Dr. Joe stuff, we'll link everything in the summary of the episode so you can get to his website, the formula. We'll write that out so you guys know where to start. That's usually the introductory course. Then you go to the progressive course. So we'll list that out. Then you go to a week-long event. And that's kind of the path.
And I'm starting, so do it with me.
Yeah. And he's got really great books as well. But do this. This is, I think, the best starting point. He got Kevin. He kept saying, Kevin's got to come. So Kevin's going. He was not going to go before. He's like, I do things at home better.
He's like, and then Kevin said, and Kelsey has to come with me. So I said...
And Kelsey said, Pooja's coming with Kelsey.
I love
exactly.
it. So friends,
goals.
get all the links there. We'll link our website there for the Life Hacks blogs as well. And if you'd leave us a review, we would really be grateful. We live for those reviews. It's like our fuel every day to keep going. And it also shares with other people what they're seeing and what they're getting out of this journey with us. So please share. Take a second to write something out. We'll put a link to that in the episode below. Thank you for being with us. Any new friends here that have come to us because of Dr. Joe's work? We do this every single day with different modalities. We're searching, we're learning, we're growing. So I hope you guys will stay with us on this journey as well. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, by the way. And in the meantime, as I always say, be nice people, make good choices, and be present.